Hello, my name is Dan MacDuff, and this is my evaluation of my preliminary task that I did with Francesca Guy-Jones and Daniel Walker. So, first I'll go through the order of the shots we used. So first we started with a tracking shot at the beginning, and then this went into a handheld stationary shot, which started as a mid to long shot and ended up as a close-up, as Dan walks towards the camera. After that we have a close-up of Dan walking into the building, and then we move to an extreme close-up on his hand as he opens the door. As he opens the door, we move inside the building, inside the room, as a match-on-action shot, and then we cut away to Francesca sitting in the chair. Then you cut back to Dan, who is then followed by a steady panning shot, and then we see a mid-shot of him sitting down in the chair, and then after that all of the rest of the shots are over the shoulder shots, which are used in shot reverse shot. Now onto what I'm saying here, you'll be able to hear the soundtrack we were using in the video. And we used this soundtrack because we thought that it sounded very detective-y, and the whole idea was that Dan was meant to be a detective interrogating Fran because she'd done a crime, but she wouldn't say how she did it, and this is meant to be some sort of top security thing, so we went with something that sounded very sort of actiony and detective. It had a detective sort of sound motif to it, so that's where we got that idea from. Now we actually filmed this preliminary task twice. The first time we had a couple of problems. First, we broke the 180-degree rule. Secondly, it was too short. It had to be between 45 seconds and a minute, and we only had about 43 seconds or so, which isn't far off, but it wasn't in the time restriction. And also, there wasn't enough dialogue. We only had one line of dialogue, and that is one of the reasons why we repeated it, and that's one of the reasons why it was too short. Now, when we came to filming the second shooting of it, not everything went perfectly that time either. So, the first shot in it, if you compare it to the first shot just shown in what I last said, that was very steady, whereas this time it was a very shaky tracking shot. So the way we can fix this is to hold it on a tripod and keep it lodged to a part of our body, and then walk with bent knees just to keep the camera as steady as possible. The second issue was that when Dan walks into the classroom, we don't leave a lot of room above his head, and that's you want to keep some safety room within the framing, so that if any part of it gets cut off, you're going to have all of the person still in that space, and it also just looks a lot more aesthetic to have some space around the person. Then another issue is that when Dan walks into the room, when we see an extreme close-up of his hand, he's got one of his fingers over the door handle, but then when we go back to the shot inside the room, his finger is not over the door handle, and this is a continuity error that looks pretty noticeable, despite how small it is. Now another issue we had is that because we weren't using a very good tripod this time, we didn't use it very often, and a lot of the shots were moving anyway, so quite a few of the shots were fairly shaky, but it wasn't too bad. Another issue is that the fact that we were filming in a room with a lot of light, the camera that we were using found it very difficult to focus, which put the quality of the video quite far down. And we did actually find one more error, but we actually managed to fix it, because basically, in the shots between Dan walking into the room and the shot of him going over to her, and we had the panning shot, when you cut those two shots together, it didn't look continuous at all. It had really bad continuity. So what we did was we used a cutaway to Fran to fix that, and that actually let us use a different type of shot in our production. Because of all the computers in the room, and maybe the aircon, I'm not quite sure what was making the ambient noise. The ambient noise was actually really loud and was picked up very clearly on camera, which meant the lines made by Dan are actually very unnoticeable. They weren't easy to hear, despite the fact that I turned the music down when he said them.
So, we have the evidence. How'd you do it?
So, one thing we could have done is looked for a better room before filming, even though we did film this in a different room to the first time. Now, some of the good things that came out of us reshooting this, and some of the good things about the preliminary task in a whole, is firstly that because we had a much bigger room to work with, we could make a much better use of shot reverse shot. And also the fact that we were refilming it made us kind of aware that we could use a lot more different types of shots, and that's what we did. We used a much wider variety of shots. The use of the soundtrack, I think, worked very well with it. It kind of fit everything that was happening, which really helped, because it made it better than just having ambient sound. Despite the fact that a lot of the shots were handheld and a bit shaky, it did tend to look okay. So thank you for watching my evaluation on our preliminary task. I enjoyed making it, and this evaluation should hopefully give you some insight into how we made it and what went wrong and what went well.